Mahomes back, throws. It is incomplete, picked off by the Lions. Brian Branch with it left side. He's gone, baby. He's going to the house. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Deflected in the air, Branch ran under it, and he took it all the way back.
Welcome to the 20 in the Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft. You see me. I hitched a ride home from New Orleans with the team. PJ is still handling things down in New Orleans. So because of this game, because of the excitement of the game, because of the importance of the game, we have decided that we will still do the 20 in the Huddle podcast for you guys. I am Tim Twentyman. He is PJ Clark. As always, we talk to you guys after the game. And PJ, I don't know what to say about that one. That was a fun one. I mean, I think you knew when it was 21-0, it wasn't going to be a game that was going to be 40-50-0. You knew New Orleans was, going to come back. And boy, they made a game of it at the end there.
Yeah, that was something. That was a it was a wild second half for sure. I mean, obviously you mentioned the hot start for the Lions, 7 minutes in, 21-0. Took advantage of a short field and put a couple good drives together. But New Orleans, as Dan Campbell said post game, is they fought. They were a tough team and they stood in it until the end. And it took a really big drive by the offense late to put this one away.
Resiliency. I think that's what Dan Campbell talked about after the game too. And not just resiliency in terms of coming back and playing well after a loss. The Lions hadn't lost 2 games in a row all year. So, you wanted to talk about that resiliency of coming back and not stacking losses together. Good teams bounce back, but also just the resiliency to handle kind of the body blows that New Orleans gave this team in the second half. They made it a game, 33-28 there late. Defense makes a critical 4th down stop. And then, like they've done all year long, Dan Campbell put the ball in Jared Goff's hands, put the ball in his offense's hands, and they won him the game. And in those moments, you want your best players and your best unit on the field making plays. And that was certainly the case Sunday in New Orleans with Jared Goff making 2 critical 3rd down throws, one to Sam LaPorta on a 3rd and 7, one to Josh Reynolds on a 3rd and 9, and that iced the game.
Yeah, I mean, that the offense came up big when they had to, and it was a slow second half, as they've tended to be this year. Third quarter, again, kind of snake bitten offensively, got some slow starts, kicked a field goal as time expired in the third quarter, but wasn't able to finish a drive. But I mean, you mentioned Josh Reynolds, to me, made the play of the game to put it away, his first catch of the day. I mean, that's just, we talked about Josh Reynolds so much early in the year before Jalen was back, that's a guy that Jared is so comfortable with. And when the chips were down, that's where he went to seal the game.
And Dan Campbell is really comfortable with Jared Goff in those kind of situations. This is what he had to say at the end of the game, just about icing it and having the confidence that his offense could get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's our guy. That's what he does. Line was protecting well today, and LaPorta was, I'll be honest with you, I felt like we were getting some separation now in areas, and LaPorta was really showing up, and there again, like I said, Reynolds, made a heck of a catch there. So look, in the critical moments, our offense finished it out for us.
And then, Peach, it's been that case multiple times this year about this offense stepping up and Jared Goff stepping up. And we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up rookie Sam LaPorta pretty
you got to bring him up.
Because, boy, Peach, I think the Lions have something special in this kid.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking 9 for 9 target receptions, 140 yards, a touchdown, a long of 48. I mean, I think he had at least 3 first downs. You are including a big one late to even get to the set that ended up putting the game away. I mean, he is a trusted player at this point, and he has been truly the whole year, and he has been truly since minicamp when this all started. But man, oh man, today was, 140 yards from a tight end is just incredible.
No tight end in the NFL through 12 games has had 60 catches, 600 yards, 6 touchdowns. I mean, this kid is not only on pace to break all of Detroit's rookie tight end records, but I mean, we're getting into the territory here where he might have the greatest rookie season of a tight end in NFL history. And boy, has Brad Holmes hit a home run with this pick. And PG, you know what I like the most about this game? I went through the transcript of Dennis Allen's comments, and Dan Campbell said it too, but they really, speaking of the Saints, made a concerted effort to take Amon-Ra St. Brown out of this game. I think more than any other team this year,
they succeeded.
They did. I mean, he saw double coverage. They bracketed him. I mean, they were not going to let Amon-Ra St. Brown beat them. Now, he still had the 25-yard touchdown because that's what great players do. But what was it? 2 catches for 49 yards? I mean, we don't see that kind of stat line.
And only targeted 6 times. I don't remember the last time he had under 10 targets.
And so the Saints do that. Well, what does Detroit need? Detroit needs somebody else to step up. When a team is going to do that and they're going to say, okay, 14 ain't going to beat us, well, then you're going to get single coverage with a lot of these other guys. And for Sam LaPorta to step up and say, look, you're going to cover me single coverage with a linebacker and a safety. I'm too fast for a linebacker. I'm too big for a safety. I'll just go ahead and catch all 9 of my targets for 140 yards and just keep this thing rolling. I think that was huge for this Lions offense. And I think that puts on tape to other teams moving forward that, look, you want to do that and you want to leave Sam LaPorta one-on-one, good luck.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pick your poison. And a lot of the offseason talk was, can J-Mo be a wide receiver too? Can Josh Reynolds step up? Do the Lions need to even add a wide receiver? You have to have a second option behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Sam has been that guy all year, and there's no better example of that today. And then you mentioned it. Lions PR, our wonderful PR staff, tweeted this one out. This list is wild. Only players in NFL history to have 60-plus receptions, 675 receiving yards, and 6 receiving touchdowns in their first 12 games. Justin Jefferson, Michael Thomas, Odell Beckham, Marcus Colston, Anquan Bolden, and Sam LaPorta. Only tight end on that list.
I was going to say, one of those names doesn't belong.
Only tight end on those lists. Those are rookie of the years. Those are superstar players. And Sam LaPorta.
I mean, this kid is a stud. I think they hit a home run. You know, he doesn't make MAs, which are, you know, mental errors, missed assignments. He doesn't make any of those. And if he does, it's very, very rare. Jared Goff said it after the game. And he's got terrific hands. He gets separation at the top of his routes. He's good blocking in the run game. I mean, there's just, what can't this kid do? And he's a rookie. I mean, he's only going to continue to get better and better and better. Boy, this has got to be really exciting if you're a Lions fan.
Yeah, I mean, and you're taking advantage of what the defense gives you at that point. I mean, you mentioned the Amon-Ra touchdown was great. You had him on a linebacker in the slot, and you're going to take that matchup every time. But then, you know, you mentioned it in the preview podcast this week. Paulson Adebo played pretty well, broke up a couple passes. I mean, you know, that's an outside corner that if Amon-Ra's there, he's a little lengthier. He's got longer arms. It's going to be a tough matchup. So you got to find other things to take advantage of. And man, when you have a player like Sam LaPorta, it's clearly a good thing to have, because I really 140 yards from a tight end that's like Kelsey, Gronk. Jimmy Graham scored a touchdown for the Saints. You want to throw old Jimmy Graham 2014 in there? Like, that's the type of the stuff we're talking about.
And it's crazy. We're talking about Kelsey. We're talking about Gronk. I mean, Sam's being put in the same, you know, light as those guys. And I think it fits. And you've got to be so excited if you're a Lions fan about that and with this young kid. And of course, like Sam, after the game, we talked to him and, you know, he credited everybody else around him except himself. And, you know, he was also asked, you know, when's he going to, you know, start to maybe reflect on this a little bit or maybe pinch himself with the type of season he's had. And he said, no. There's plenty of time after the season for that. Take a listen.
After the season ends, yeah, it's you don't want to get caught up in all that. It just kind of muddies your vision and it clouds your vision for the team and the success that we hope to have moving forward.
And so There's Sam. You've got to love that mentality about that young man. He just wants to come to work, just wants to put his head down, and all he does is make plays. And you got to love a guy like that. I think he certainly fits this culture, this coach. He's exactly the kind of guy they want to build their core around. And look, I think you also have to credit this Detroit offensive line too. Jared was sacked one time in the game. He had to move around, had to navigate a little bit. I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah, I was going to say this is a really good Jared pocket game, honestly.
It was really, really good. And that play that he made on third down that was dropped by David Montgomery, I thought that was, he shifted left and stepped up and jumped through, and it should have been a first down. Look, drops happen in this league. Everybody's human. But then to bounce back, get another chance at it. Again, even on the play that ended the game, the pass to Reynolds, excuse me, he said after the game, I was going to take a sack there. I was totally prepared to take a sack there because I wanted the clock to still run. But look, he shifted to his left. He stepped up a little bit, saw the opening, made a great throw and ends the game. And kudos to the offensive line who was without Frank Ragnow. He got hurt a little bit over 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. It's a knee injury. It didn't look good initially, but Dan said they got a little bit more positive news after the game. Now, obviously, an MRI is going to have to determine that on Monday. We'll see how that goes. That would be obviously a huge loss. He hasn't allowed a sack all season. I think only 2 quarterback hits. He's been terrific in the run game. He's having a Pro Bowl season, in my opinion. But look, Graham stepped in, and for this team, 1 sack allowed, 30 carries, 142 yards. They came out, wanted to establish the run. 6 of their first 7 plays were runs. I think that first drive, 59 yards on the ground. I mean, they saw that as an opportunity. I thought those guys up front set the tone for the game early on.
Yeah, I think they made it a point. Even, you get a false start on the first play of the game. You're looking at 1st and 15 out of the gate, and you just run the ball down their throat 3 straight times to get a first down. You want to talk about setting a tone? That was really impressive. And there was a good run on 3rd and 7 by David Montgomery to even convert that. But there was a really good push today. And I mean, I feel like we talk about him even a little bit more and more every week. Gibbs, again, electric. I mean, 7.5 a carry. Didn't get maybe the double digit touches that you want to get from him, but when he had the ball, it worked, and it was quick to set up that first score of the game.
And how about, we've seen it before. We saw the 4th down in LA where they decided to run it. What was that, a 4th and 6? Yep. They decided to run it, a 3rd and 7 early in this game. I think if you're a defense now, you're starting to watch this tape. I think you
have to respect it.
You really have to start to respect that. And what I think is going to start to happen, Peach, is you're going to have to respect that. And you get one hard play fake. You get one really good concept that.
Yeah, you want to say some tape. Sam LaPorta stuff.
I'm even talking maybe some JMO kind of stuff that these kind of runs, these kinds of situations, I think open up those possibilities too for a safety that now takes one extra peek in the backfield just to make sure. You take one peek with JMO. We saw that speed and the open field. I think maybe we could start to see some things down the field with him as well too, just because of their ability to run the football in these kinds of situations.
Yeah, and you're forcing teams to think that, oh, David Montgomery can get 8 yards when the chips are down whenever they need it to. And the advantage we talked about it when on the Chicago 2-minute drill that ended up winning a game. It's just an extra card to play in those situations that you feel comfortable running the ball in a 2-minute because you're going to get 8 yards on it when the defense maybe isn't expecting it. Would you rather just get 8 yards up the middle or try to throw to the sideline to burn the clock? Or can you convert a 3rd and 7 in a light box? You have the front to do that. And that first drive, even that first set of 3 to even just get stalled out on the 1st and 15 and then convert that to me was really important, especially coming off last week's game.
All right, we got to flip over and talk about the defense a little bit. I thought it was up and down and then up again. It was just kind of one of those weird games where They make the plays early on. You love the sack on the third series from Bruce Irvin to get them off the field, force a punt there. That's exciting. And then look, the first defensive play of the game, we saw it in Kansas City. Brian Branch kind of, Johnny on the spot right where you need to
He's
be.
got a knack. Yep.
Ball bounces off a receiver in one hand and he brings it in, and that leads to a touchdown. So, early on, the defense is making plays. They're getting stops. And then look, like we talked about off the top, you knew New Orleans was going to come back a little bit. And they did. And I thought they had Detroit's defense on their heels a little bit. I think the pass rush lulled a little bit there in the third quarter. I thought the coverage was a little bit spotty at times. There were some holes, and look, they had some bounces go their way too. I mean, the one play to Olave down at the bottom, I mean, that's a Jerry Jacobs interception, but no, it gets tipped and then Olave catches it. So they didn't have some bounces go their way, but again, 2 sacks, 1 from Bruce Irvin. You got to love that. They had some pressure, but maybe not as consistent as you'd like. Been an issue all year. And when they don't pressure, we saw some of the holes. But look, Olave is a really good, receiver in this league. 8 targets, 5 catches, 119 yards, some big plays. I mean, kudos to him. He gets paid in this league too. But I think when they needed it late, with New Orleans having a chance to drive the field, score a touchdown, win that game, they pressured Jameis Winston, who had to come in after Bruce Irvin knocked out Derek Carr, forced the turnover on downs, and just kind of made the plays when they needed to. That's a good team, right? Stepping up and playing situational football.
Yeah, I mean, even preventing, the Jameis series from just continuing and forcing Jameis off the field to give your offense an opportunity. I think it was a 4th and 6 at the 47-yard line midfield. That's totally, that's a spot where you need to come up, and you had to go back out there if Jared took that sack on 3rd down. You had to be ready for a 2-minute drill that could have gone the other way. But like you said, Brian Branch, obviously a standout. I thought Jack Campbell, a lot was made about the linebacking situation, obviously without Alex this week and Alex Anzalone having a great year, but Jack Campbell stepped up today. I thought he looked comfortable at his natural spot and played a lot better than maybe he has in previous weeks. Jalen Reeves-Maybin, another standout on teams and in coverage against Kamara, the best receiving back in the league this year. And I thought you did a pretty good job of limiting Taysom Hill. I mean, that was another big sticking point this week. Only 74 total yards, did not complete a pass. I mean, I think you got to be pretty satisfied with how you lock that guy down too. Olave, a very good receiver, as you mentioned, but I think the bones were there today, maybe better than they were against the Packers today.
No, 100%. I'm glad you brought up Jalen Reeves-Maybin too, because I mean, how important is it to have a guy like that on your team, right? I mean, a core special teamer, one of the best special team guys in the league, had 4 tackles, I think, in the first half, or one of the 2 halves on special teams. And then to be able to just pop in there, hey, we need you on defense. We're down Alex. You're going to get some snaps on defense. Shot the gap a couple times, had a tackle for loss, defended a pass. I just thought, you need guys like that, and you need performances like that if you're going to win games. When you're injured, a guy can step in and make a play here or there. And I just speaks to the depth of this roster. And I think Dan Campbell was right all week last week when he said, look, I've got a lot of confidence in that linebacker room. I think it's really, really deep. I think we got some guys that could step in. I thought Jalen Reeves-Maybin was a terrific example of that.
Yeah, and he didn't lose anything on teams, which is where he's your best player too. And you saw that 4 tackles in the first half. I mean, that is wild, busting it all the way down and making those tackles. Jack, I thought was very solid again, giving his gunners and Germ opportunities to make plays on the ball right away, limiting big returns. But to have the flexibility is like, yeah, you're not only the special teams ace, and you have Pittman and you had Nowaski who made his debut today. You're pretty deep at linebacker on the roster. You're carrying a lot of guys at that position, but to have your best special teamer and Jalen Reeves-Maybin also be able to come and be your coverage backer, especially with a guy like Kamara on the other side, that the importance of that, the value of that in a week without your defensive captain and your man in the middle there cannot be overstated.
Yeah, Bruce Irvin, I thought that was a really nice storyline in this one too. Obviously needed a couple weeks to, get ready, get back into football shape, not having OTAs, not having a training camp. I talked to him this week. I stopped by his locker and he really appreciated that about Dan Campbell and this coaching staff. He said sometimes, a team is really in need of a guy to help out. They'll kind of throw him in there right away. And when he's not ready, and that's when injuries happen, that's when things like that happen. He really appreciated the fact that the Lions took their time, waited for him to get ready. He said this week, I'm ready and I think I can help. And boy, he was right. We talked about the sack. I've got to go back and watch the tape, but I think there were some pressures there. He's 36 years old. I think he maybe forgot on the penalty that the rules have changed a little bit. When he was young in this league, he could go ahead and put his body weight down on quarterbacks.
That was textbook. I mean, that's the
old
example.
School NFL football right there, but we are in the new NFL and you can't do that. And Bruce will obviously learn from that. But still, the fact that he was there to make that play on a 3rd and long, that would have been a 4th and long. We talked about the sack. I just think he was disruptive. He made plays. I noticed him. And I think that's the great thing, because you talk about Aiden, you talk about Aleem McNeil, and you kind of wanted that 3rd guy to emerge. Who's that guy? And I thought Bruce showed flashes.
Yeah, I noticed him was the biggest thing that stood out to me of what you just said. You're just fishing for anything, whatever a 36-year-old, 12-year vet has in the tank that you think maybe he's got something left for a playoff push, a guy that's won a Super Bowl, a guy that has 88 career sacks, a guy that has been there, done that. Like Kelvin Shepherd made a huge point of that in his media availability this week, that he is, this is a championship pedigree player. Just the fact that he came on the field for the first time, he hasn't played since January. He didn't have a training camp. The first time he steps on and it hits somebody, you're noticing him, and he comes up with a 10-yard sack. I think that's huge. And that's obviously something for not only Bruce, but the rest of the edge group, I think, to build off.
And he's only going to get more comfortable as he gets more reps. And I think we could see his impact grow at the end of the season. So look, overall, it's a great win, right? I know Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn had to feel great about going back to New Orleans, getting a win there. And now you get to 9-3. You look what happened in Philadelphia with San Francisco, beating Philadelphia. Now they're 10-2. San Francisco's 9-3. And Peach, I think those 3 teams have kind of established themselves along with Dallas. I'd say the 4 teams.
Yeah, I would definitely put Dallas.
Have kind of established themselves at that top 4. But I think the thing with Dallas, and that'll be a really big game now next week. I think is it Philadelphia at Dallas or Dallas at Philadelphia?
At Dallas.
At Dallas. So could you imagine a situation where Dallas wins that game and you've got all of a sudden 4 teams with 3 losses at the top of the NFC, and this could get really interesting the last month. But those 4 teams have established themselves. Detroit had to win today in New Orleans against a 5-6 team that was reeling a little bit coming off a loss. I think it was an important win to establish themselves as one of those 4 teams to beat in the NFC.
Yeah, you kept pace, right? Like you're just staying in lockstep with everybody else. Dallas had a hard fought win on Thursday, and the other 2, somebody had to lose that game. So you kept pace with everybody else, and you're keeping yourself in it for, maybe not the 1 seed, but the 2 seed. You have the potential to host 2 playoff games. And I think that's a really big deal that, come January might end up mattering.
So can the Lions now keep it going? They've got to go on the road to Chicago. And I don't think that's an easy game.
No, not at all.
To Chicago. You look at what Chicago did 2 weeks ago. They're going to be certainly motivated for this matchup. They have to feel like they let one slip away in Detroit, losing that game late. The weather could be an issue. That's always a tough place to play. And then you come home for Denver on what'll be, as we found out this week, an 8:15 Saturday game in prime time again. So just keep pace, right? Just keep winning these games. And it doesn't matter how you win it. It doesn't have to be pretty. It wasn't pretty.
No.
Again, Chicago, it wasn't pretty on Sunday against New Orleans, but the W is the only thing that matters. So continue to do that. It should be an interesting week here in Detroit as they prepare to go to Chicago, which I think is going to be a tough game.
Yeah, I mean, you a team that just is coming off a win. They're on a bye this week. They won on Monday Night Football. They're probably feeling themselves a little bit, and they know they gave the Lions a good shot 2 weeks ago, and really almost had him on the ropes at the end of the game and just needed to make a defensive stand. And at home, a team with a run game like that in the only cold weather game that the Lions have scheduled for the rest of the year, it's definitely, not going to be an easy one. No division game ever is, but that definitely is, the defense is going to have to be ready to throw some contain on Fields and see what happens.
So they'll get back at it, obviously, in Allen Park this week. We will be back at it at 20 in the Puddle 20-minute in the Huddle podcast, excuse me, from Allen Park. We'll have that for you on Thursday, like we always do, getting ready for the matchup. I think I'm going to have Brad Biggs on from the Tribune, and we'll get a player out to talk about that matchup. So we'll have 20 in the Huddle this week, and then me and you will be back at it again next week after the game. So it should be a fun week as Detroit Lions try to get to 10 wins in week 14. Boy, that's fun to talk about.